Hi friends, it's December 5th. Welcome back to another Sit and Spin this Vlogmas. Hello and welcome to Stitches and Starlight. My name is Tashiana, but you can call me Tashi because that's what all my friends do. And sorry, the cat literally ran out. Hi, Minnie. Hi. Come on, say. All right. She literally ran out while I was doing my introduction and fully threw me. But hello and welcome to Stitches and Starlight. My name is Tashiana, but you can call me Tashi because that's what all my friends do, and we're friends now. I'm coming to you from my home in Brooklyn that I share with my husband Joshua and the two hell kittens, actual cats, not humans, and they are both outside and looking at me, Minerva and Astoria. And this is my corner of the internet where we talk about all the things I'm making, whether I'm knitting or spinning or sewing or potentially weaving. It is just fiber joy and wool chaos all the time. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on the thumbnail. There are a million voices vying for your attention on the internet, and you saw whatever this is and decided to give it a go, and that makes you a rad human. If you're a returning viewer, thanks so much for being here. Welcome back to the channel. We're opening day 3 of Advent today. I'm spinning Okay, I will say, we've hit the time of year where my sleep has fully gone out the window. This happens to me during the season of Starlight every year. I personally think it's because the stars want me awake. I don't know why the stars want me awake, but I think they have something to tell me because this time of year this happens all the time. But I've been awake since 4 a.m. and I have not had coffee. So we're going to see how coherent I am. Hopefully I can still deliver information. It is too early in the day for me to have coffee because I'm not getting up to make it. I typically buy it on my way to work, but when you wake up at 4 a.m., there's a lot of awake time pre-coffee. So hopefully I'm coherent. And if not, I'm sorry, come back tomorrow. But we are opening day 3 of the Delightful Advent by Melly Knits, my friend Melissa. And I'm having the best time. Oh, and I'm wearing something handmade. So I'm going to quickly stand up and show this to you, and then we're going to get back to what we're talking about. But this is the Wren Fleece by Daughter Judy, and I did a silly color blocked version. It is not well made. It was my first time sewing with French terry, and my machine settings were all wrong. So and it has that, I don't know if I'm sure you saw it, but it has that curved shape. So the yoke is, instead of it's not quite a raglan. It's a weird construction. But the yoke connects to the body in this fun curve seam, and my machine settings were all wrong. So there's like fun puckers along it. I wear it all the time because it feels like a sweatshirt. It is a sweatshirt. I do enjoy the silly way I color blocked it. It is 20 degrees in New York City right now. Well, I guess, I don't know if it's all over New York City. In Brooklyn, where I live, it's 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Which I have feelings about. I have feelings about having to go outside in 20-degree weather. Our winters have recently been pretty mild, and everything I read said that this winter was going to be devastating. And I was like, whatever. It's 20 degrees and winter hasn't started yet, and I'm upset about this. So I will be pulling out all of the cozy sweatshirts. So prepare to just see me in more and more oversized clothes as December goes along, because the colder and the darker it gets, I just want warm and cozy things. But I figured I would show you the sweatshirt I'm wearing because I made it. We're going to be talking about gender and clothing and all that other stuff. There's, again, the people who suggested topics suggested juicy ones. And I was actually planning on talking about neurodivergence today. And then I realized how sleepy I was. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. So instead, we're going to talk about why I love handspun so much, because that is a thing that I can do with my eyes closed and like both hands tied behind my back and not feel like I'm struggling to get words out. The way I feel like I've rambled so much during this introduction. I'm so sorry. Let's talk fiber. So I did, hold on, I'm dropping them, but I did wind off days 1 and 2 onto storage bobbins. I originally said that I was going to chain ply them to the same yarn. And then my friend Sam, hi Sam, my friend Sam is also spinning this, and she's doing mini skeins, and I have completely pivoted. So I am still going to chain ply them, but instead of chain plying them into one continuous gradient, I'm going to chain ply them into mini skeins and then knit them up that way. And frankly, the only reason I was going to do it into bigger skeins is because I was lazy when it comes to skeining yarn. and winding them. And I don't have to skein this by hand. I have an electric skein winder. So it's silly to be lazy about this, and also will help me check yardage better. So all of that to say that I wound off days 1 and 2, and you can really appreciate the subtle, I mean, you can see it here. You can appreciate the subtle gradient. I am so excited about this, guys. I'm doing everything possible to avoid spoilers, which is very hard. It's very hard. Also, people are opening it, days 1 through 12. And I am forcing myself to make this last all December. So I'm doing everything possible to avoid spoilers. But I did talk to Melissa. Melissa was like, yeah, we're going on a full adventure with this. And I'm like, I'm ready. My body is ready. I am locked in. Because I don't know if you guys watch my Fiber Stash tours, which, those are out there if you want to see all the comb top I have. But I love a gray fleece. And my comb top that I was the most excited about were all the colors that were dyed on gray wool because of that like depth of color, that heathering you get. Yeah, this is gray stuff with color on top of it. So anyways, here's days 1 and 2. And you can see it. It's subtle, but it's so pretty. They're not the same color. And as I was spinning it, I mean, I'm spinning it in relatively, it's not dark in here, but I'm spinning it in, I have to put on big lights to film this, and I am upset about big lights, but I'm filming this in as close to soft lighting as I can get while still having the big light so you can see me. And I was looking at it on my wheel and I was like, are these the same color? These are not the same color. These are not the same color. And I love the fact that it is so soft because I think it makes it a really easy application. Now, I did say I was going to knit the shawl. But also, how much fun would it be if I had enough yardage for a garment? I don't know that I'll have enough yardage for a garment. And I am going to knit the shawl. I'm committing to the bit. But also, this would be so pretty in a garment. So anyways, I wound this off. Someone did ask if they could see my bobbin winder. And even though I said I wasn't going to do vlogs, I have just been turning on my camera periodically during the last few days. So I think the plan is to just do a weekly. Like, this is what the last week of my life has looked like, so that the days I don't want to do it, I don't have to do it. And the days that I have a lot to say, whatever. And then you get all 7 days in one big video dump at the beginning of the next week. I don't know what the plan is, but someone did ask to see my bobbin winder, and I did film myself winding off these 2 bobbins. I use an electric Leclerc bobbin winder, the one that has double prongs. I bought it from the Woolery. I am a Woolery affiliate, so if you decide you want one, my link is in the description box. I bought it from the Woolery. It's not cheap. Let's just say that. There are manual bobbin winders, but I already have shoulder issues. And it's the reason why I use an electric skein winder. All of these repetitive motions are so bad for me, and I would rather just say the repetitive motion for spinning. So I pay the extra money for the electric one, so it comes with a foot pedal, you step on it, and winds it off. There will be a video of me using it at some point in the near future. I don't know what day is gonna happen. It's whenever I get around to editing it. But yeah, so here's days 1 and 2. And now we're gonna open day 3. And I realized that I have been filming for 8 minutes and I've said nothing. I'm so sorry. Day 3, the present dance. Haha. All right. I've been holding it above my head. You can't see it. But here's day 3 of another foil wrapped bundle. I do know what this, well, so here's the thing. I don't know what it looks like. I've seen pictures of it. And that's when I was like, no. So I will no longer be watching Melissa's stories, which makes me sad because I love Melissa's stories. But there is a universe where I open all of these. But then I like to open them on camera so you guys get my genuine reaction. But also I want to know. And I'm battling equal and opposing impulses, which, ADHD. So I haven't looked at it yet. Let's look at it. Oh, hey guys. Okay, so we are getting pinker. It is warmer, and it is more pink compared to, because now I can do this. I think that's the good part about winding them off. So here's 1, 2, and shut up. Melissa, shut up. Here's that gradient. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's gonna be good. All right, so I already said, today we're talking about why handspun. I have some, obviously thoughts. I have some thoughts as a spinner. I have some thoughts, I have some feelings. I will attempt to articulate said thoughts and feelings, but really the question was like, what keeps me coming back? And why do I keep doing it? And why am I so enamored with the idea of spinning? And if the brain allows, and if time allows, oh, guys. Wow. If the brain allows and if time allows, I'll give you some tips for using your handspun. We will talk about sweater spinning, so we're not going to do too much. But like, if you have like some solitary skeins lying around, I have some tips and some ideas on how you might use them. But also, it's now been 10 minutes, so who knows if we'll get to anything. I'm going to stop talking. I got to stop talking. I got to set my wheel up. We got to get going. Before we start spinning, I'm going to quickly do some wheel maintenance, and I am going to fully slip off my drive band, but I was just gonna oil my flyer. I typically oil my flyer every time my bobbin's empty. I find that my wheel chatters the most when my bobbin's empty. And if I was spinning alone, I would not care, but we don't need too much assistance in background sounds. So I think I said this, but I just use basic sewing machine oil. So this I got on Amazon. It's from Liberty Oil Products. It is their sewing machine lube. I've gone through 2 bottles of this. I have multiple wheels. I've gone through 2 bottles of this. And I have this, I think I've showed this before, but Vivian at What Viv Does, wove, which is so, guys, the people in my life are so cool and the makers in my life are so cool, but wove these sewing machine towels and then sent them out to a bunch of people. Not sewing machine towels. They are spinning towels. And so this is how I oil my wheel. So I put the towel underneath and I just hit the shaft of my flyer with the oil, and then I take the napkin essentially and just wipe off the excess so there's just not goop anywhere. And then I do it again with the orifice. Anything that's metal that's going to be rotating, that's where you're going to get chatter. And then I just wipe off the excess. And again, sewing machine oil is lightweight, so it's not going to goop up your stuff and cause any sort of like mess. And then after I wipe off the excess, I just put my wheel back together. Yeah, so the fun thing about the flat iron being able to go in double drive and Scotch is sometimes, if it's been a really long time since I've used my wheel, I forget which one's which. I did have a time where I had to message Melody, who also owns a flat iron, and I was like, "Hey, so which end of the bobbin is the double drive end?" The bobbins are double ended, so one has a smaller groove. One side has a smaller groove. I'm making a mess of this because I'm trying to talk. But one side has a smaller groove and one side has a larger groove, and I couldn't remember which side was the double drive side. Now that I've been using my wheel regularly again, I hope I remember. But every time I take the bobbin off, I have like a little bit of panic where I'm like, which side is it? Okay, so my wheel is set up in double drive. So I have 2, I have a cotton tension band tied on itself. And I've slipped one side on the whirl, one side on the flyer. We are spinning. There's no noise. So I'm going to start spinning a little bit, and then I'll start talking once I'm set up and ready to go. I find that with these videos, it is easier to get going when I'm not also trying to, chatter. So gonna get my leader out, attach my fiber. I'll be back. All right, and we're off. I think my other favorite thing about this wheel, compared to the e-spinners, and actually compared to the Lendrum too, is I don't have to adjust the tension once I switch from bobbin to bobbin. With other tension systems, especially with Scotch tension, where you have to sort of take off the tension, whatever is tensioning your bobbin to switch from bobbin to bobbin, I always find that I have a little bit of like a kerfluffle in the beginning where I'm like, oh, what's the tension like? Is this the same tension as the bobbin before? And with the way the double drive is set up, the way you adjust the tension in double drive is you move the maiden away from the drive wheel. And since I'm not moving it, my tension is the same every single time. And that is a really big perk of listen, I don't work for Shaft, you guys. And I'm sure this is the same for every Saxony wheel. This is just a Saxony wheel that I have, but I don't work for Shaft. I don't get a commission. Although if you do, you buy your wheel from the Woolery and you use my affiliate link, I will. No, but I just really like this wheel. I really, really like this wheel. It's my heart wheel. So why handspun, guys? Like why? What keeps me coming back when there are a million other crafts that I've abandoned? What is it about this one? And I think there are 2 words that sum up why handspun does it for me, and it's potential and it's play. And I'm sure that these are concepts that you can apply to any craft. but there's something about making yarn that feels like infinite potential, and it feels like a giant opportunity for play. And I think here's the thing. Every time you make a choice, once you start spinning, your potential decreases. And that's just life, right? Like every time you make a choice, you have narrowed out and other choices have disappeared. And then you make another choice. And so those other futures, those other possibilities have also disappeared. And it's the same thing when you pick up a skein of yarn. You pick up a skein of yarn and you make a choice. And so other choices have gone out the window. But when you spin, your opportunity, like the amount of choice that's presented to you is so vast compared to if you're picking up a skein of commercial yarn, because every step you go back, you add choice. If every step you go forward, you remove choice, then every step you go back, you add choice. And then depending on how far back you want to go, you just continue adding choices. And I think there's something about the infinite potential, and infinite is a big word. Obviously, it's not infinite, but there's something about what feels like infinite potential in a bit of fiber that keeps me coming. So like, let's talk about what I'm spinning, right? Melissa has made several choices for us. She's washed this. She's blended it with alpaca. She's blended it with silk to give it color, and she's dyed it into this gradient. So these are all choices that she's made for us. And then I am choosing to spin it at this ratio, and then I am choosing to chain ply it, and then I'm choosing to do whatever happens next. But my friend Sam, who's also spinning the same gradient, is spinning it on her e-spinner, so probably spinning it at a different speed than I am. She's also spinning a woolen yarn. She's also long drawing hers, but she's spinning hers into a 2-ply yarn. And so the two of us have had the same fiber and are approaching it completely differently, and then are making these different choices and are ending up with different results that are going to then yield different yarns that then we can knit into different projects. And I think there's just something so lovely about having this opportunity for potential and this opportunity for play that I find does not come up as much. Like, obviously there's still opportunity. Like, you make choices all the time, but I find that this level of choice making does not pop up so much for me in my other crafts. And that is part of what keeps me coming back to making yarn. It's part of the reason why I started processing my own wool. There's something about going all the way back that I find really compelling. And I remember talking to Christopher at Flannel and Pearls about this, because Christopher bakes. And so he was talking about like milling wheat berries. I think that's how you get flour. Can you tell that I don't cook? But like he was talking about like milling the wheat berries to get your own flour and blending to get different flour blends, and then to just go on to bake. And it's like, yeah, it's the exact same thing. Like depending on how far back you want to go in this craft that brings you joy and how much like control you want over those steps, then it makes sense to continue going further back. And so I, came to fibercraft as a knitter, and then I really liked yarn. And so I was just like, well, how far back can I go with yarn? And then I started making yarn, and I was like, okay, how far back can I go with that? And that is how I got to fiber processing. And so I think there's something really lovely about going down the rabbit hole and seeing how far the rabbit hole takes you. I also think there's something really lovely about connecting to producers in a way that not to say you necessarily cannot do with knitting. Like you can do all of this with knitting, but I think there's something really lovely about connecting with small batch producers. I've gotten to meet shepherds since I've started spinning. I've gotten to like actually, make considerable and lasting connections with the people who are raising our fiber animals. And I think there's something about being that involved. And that, sorry, the radiator's coming up, so it's 20 degrees outside, so forgive the clanking. But I think there's something very like romantic about connecting that far back. But you know what else it is? It's punk. It is rejecting every notion of productivity and capitalism that has been ingrained in our heads as, producers, because this takes forever. This literally takes forever. There is no way I mean, I guess you can make a living wage off of it, but it's probably very, very hard. But like the amount of work and time and labor that we invest in this very, very slow craft goes against pretty much everything we've been taught to do with our adult time. We have to be productive. We have to be productive. We have to be productive. And something about spinning just really allows me to have an opportunity to slow down and just go, I don't want to do that. And now listen, I have been told that I'm a very prolific spinner and I'm a very productive spinner. I spin very quickly. So I do produce a fair amount of yarn, but it just feels very much, that sort of production feels very much divested from what we've been told we have to do as members of a society functioning under capitalism. And so like that's probably a little bit more of a like highbrow reason for why I do this. But I think a lot of it is that it just feels like a rejection of what I've been told that I should be doing with my time. And I think all craft, like I think especially all slow craft feels like a rejection. It is again why I refuse to allow capitalism into my making, because I cannot continue to reject all the things that I've been told about what I should be doing with my time and then infect it with that, if that makes any sense. But the other reason that I come back to handspun, which is very much connected to the potential idea, is the idea of play. I was watching Evie at Jillian Eve. She does a Vlogmas situation every year, and this year she's just been doing like these daily kind of like talk videos. And I was watching her video and she was talking about like unfinished objects and the opportunity they represent for play and for learning. And I think that is the other thing that keeps me coming back to handspun, is the opportunity presents for play. And again, this is not diminishing how other people approach knitting, but knitting for me does not feel like play. Knitting for me feels like manufacturing. Like it feels like, okay, I've done all the fun stuff, or someone else has done all the fun stuff by yarn creation, and now I am making a thing in a way that like spinning for me feels like play. And I think, and again, a lot of this is just going to be your personal approach to craft, but here's the other thing I think what it is, now that I'm like sitting down trying to parse it through. I think it's because I'm not a designer. And when I knit, I'm following someone else's recipe. And when I'm following someone else's recipe, that's part of what makes it feel like I'm manufacturing a thing. And because I'm spinning and I'm not doing that, it doesn't feel so much like that. And I'm trying to like parse through these because a lot of this is emotional, right? So it's like really hard to talk about a thing that is deeply emotional in a way that makes sense to other people who might not feel that sort of emotional connection. But I think that's really what it is that because I don't design, and God bless designers, you guys are doing, the people who do it, forgot to turn off my alarm. The people who do it are doing incredible work, but I think it's because I don't design and I'm essentially following. It's the reason why baking does not bring me joy. I do enjoy cooking. I enjoy making like stews and soups and the sort of things that you can mess around with, but baking is such an exact science. And I just routinely go like, not for me. And knitting, a lot of knitting feels for me, again, like an exact science. So you have to do and again, these are all, I'm saying have tos and you have tos. These are all my approach. So like, if this doesn't like line up with how you approach your making, I'm really glad that that works for you. But knitting for me feels like this very exact science where you sort of have to do your gauge swatch and you sort of have to do this thing and you got to count and you have to make sure you have the right number of stitches and you have to do all this stuff if you want something that's going to be functional at the end that makes you happy. If you want a predictable result, you sort of have to do all this work and then trust the guide map that the designer has given you to get you a thing at the end. It is part of the reason why I don't finish projects. I get very bored with knitting, especially once, now there's something to be said for stockinette in the round when you want something low impact, when you can turn your brain off. But once I get to stockinette in the round, there's very little keeping me engaged with a knitting project. And that's part of the reason why I constantly start new things. Whereas with spinning, I think I'm just more intentional with the choices that I make because I'm making the choices, because I'm designing this yarn myself and I am making choices at every step. I'm checking my grist, I am sampling, I'm doing a bunch of stuff. I think I just stay more engaged and more intentional with this. And I think the other thing, and this is probably the reason why I enjoy spinning on a wheel. Now, you know, I haul my e-spinner into bed like everybody else. But spinning for me is a full body craft because I'm sitting at a wheel, I'm treadling, I'm drafting, and I sort of like end up moving my body from side to side, and I start swaying with the rhythm of my wheel. And it becomes this really like full body meditation for me in a way that like none of the actually sewing does do a lot of that for me also, because you're stepping on the foot pedal, you're putting your fabric through the machine. But anything that's sort of full body really helps keep me attached and ingrained and like involved in what I'm doing, so that my brain doesn't start sort of floating away and meandering into something else. And again, we will eventually talk about the spicy brains, but I need something that is keeping me full body committed. When I knit, I have to knit with something else on in the background. Like I have to knit with a podcast or an audio book or something. I can spin with nothing else. I can spin in complete silence. I don't need background noise. I don't need to be talking. I don't need to be reading. I can just sit at my spinning wheel with nothing else and sort of lose myself to the meditative aspect of spinning in a way that I don't think I've ever been able to do with any other craft. Like I've always been a multitasker, and for some reason, once I start spinning, I don't have to. This is just the thing I do. I just sit at my wheel and I make yarn, and I lose an hour or two. Part of the reason why I haven't turned off my work alarm is so I actually remember to leave my apartment to go to work. But I lose an hour or two to sitting at my wheel, and this really magical thing happens. And I think that's also part of what keeps me coming back. So a lot of it is just, again, trying to explain this like deeply emotional response I had to this craft the second I started spinning. And we will talk about the things that I wish I knew when I started spinning at some point this month. But it was one of those things that the second I tried it, I was like, okay, I get it. I get it. This is the thing for me. I'm going to keep doing this. And every time I learned something new, you know, I like processed my first fleece. I got hand combs. I got hand cards. I got a drum carder. I started spinning other people's hand processed stuff. Or the first time you spin a fractal and it comes out the way you imagined it in your mind's eye, or the first time you figure out how to chain ply. There are all these like really cool moments in my spinning journey that like stand out as like little light bulb moments. And I think that's what keeps me coming back to handspun. Also, it just looks really cool. It looks really cool. It's really cool to like have someone really admire a finished project. And this is like obviously not the reason that we make things, but like it's really cool to have somebody admire a finished project and ask you where the yarn is from. And then you're like, oh, actually I made that. And they're like, you did what? Yeah, like I made all the yarn in my sweater. Like I scoured all the yarn in my sweater and I processed it, and then I spun it on my spinning wheel, and then I knit it up. And everything about this project is handmade, and I did it. And that's a really cool thing that you get to say when you spin yarn. So before I let you go, I thought I would share some quick tips for working with handspun. Again, we're going to talk about sweater spinning, and we're going to talk about color and mat. Like a lot of people wanted me to talk about sweater spinning and how to pick color for projects and how to do color management. And we'll do as much as we can without, you know, demonstrations, because a lot of that stuff does involve and require, I think, demonstrations. But some quick tips for working with your yarn. I think the first thing to remember is gauge is important. But yarn is so much more forgiving than we think it is, and it's so much more resilient than we think it is. So if you have new handspun skeins and it seems kind of inconsistent and it seems kind of bumpy and you're just like, I don't know what to do with this, knit a swatch. There's nothing will give you more information about how to work with your yarn than actually working with your yarn. And you might find that even though it looks kind of like bumpy and uneven in the skein and barely plied, and you're like, I don't even know if this has enough twist to hold together, knit your swatch and it might surprise you. I work with my early yarns all the time. My first two skeins, they're precious and they're gonna be hiding away forever. But a lot of my early yarns, I sat on them because I just didn't know what to do with them. And then once I started working with them, I realized that they had a lot more integrity than I thought they did. And knit fabric is actually a lot more resilient than we think it is. So, you know, just sort of work with it. Knit a swatch and see what it tells you. The other thing is handspun's really good for throwing in the yoke of a sweater. I mean, we've all seen those sweaters that have spin cycle in the yoke for color work. So pairing it with a commercial yarn is a really like smart use of it, especially when you have these like one-off skeins where you've only spun like a 4-ounce braid and you probably have 200 yards of DK weight and you're like, what do I do with that? Throw it in the yoke of a garment. That's a really like easy use of it. There's also all these fun mosaic patterns that have been cropping up, which I love a good mosaic pattern. I love the texture and the color play that happens in a mosaic pattern. Like Samantha has the Grid Gambit. She just released the Flannel Crush. Andrea Mowry has like the Traveler series, which is not mosaic, but all that sort of stuff really lends itself well to be used with handspun. So knitting accessories will also give you a lot of information about what your yarn is doing and what your yarn is capable of. Knit a hat, like knit a small thing. And also don't be afraid to pair it with like, if you aren't allergic to like mohair or siri, consider pairing it with a lace weight yarn to increase the weight. And by the weight, I mean like the yarn weight. So like getting you from fingering to sport or sport to DK. If you have fingering weight yarn and you don't know what to do with it, and you're also very concerned about like maybe the harshness of the color transitions, consider holding it double with a lace weight situation. The halo of the lace weight will blur out any sort of harshness in the color transitions if you see that, but it'll also plump up the yarn and it'll let you knit it at a heavier gauge so that maybe you will like increase the potential applications of the yarn that you have. And frankly, my tip for using your handspun is just to use it. You really aren't going to know anything about what the yarn that you're capable of making is doing. The yarn that you're making is capable of doing unless you do a thing. So knit a swatch, make a small thing, knit a coaster. Like wool is not, and this is the thing that I constantly say, sheep continue to grow wool. And I think that when we stop treating the yarn that we make as precious, we learn so much more about it. So use your stuff up, mess around, knit a swatch, throw it in the water, block it out, see if it felts. Maybe you felt it on purpose, see what happens, but just give yourself like space and room to play and to explore the potential of the thing that you've made, because isn't that why we do it? For play and for potential? I mean, at least that's why I do it. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me on this very rambly adventure. I can't wait to edit this later / tomorrow and hear what I sound like. But I hope there was something in here that resonated, something in here that landed for you on your own making journey. If you are thinking about spinning and you haven't given it a go, I hope it inspired you to just try it. I really love this craft. I really love listening to people pick it up. Rachel and Renee have started spinning at Table 10. And it's been such a treat to like listen to them talk about how cool it is. And the joy of the internet is we're getting to watch people fall in love with this hobby that we love so much in real time. And yeah, the internet is an incredibly toxic place, but sometimes it does cool things like that. So if you are on the fence about spinning and you haven't given it a go, I hope listening to me natter on about it inspires you to at least try it, or maybe think about it a little bit harder. This particular craft has added so much to my life in ways that I had hoped for, and ways that I was completely surprised by. And I do think that this is going to be the one that hangs around forever. And like, you know, sometimes there's ebb and flow in your interests, but I do find myself coming back to my wheel, and it is a really lovely thing to have. It's a really lovely place to be. And this feels like home. This feels like home. So that's it for me. I hope that, again, whatever your December looks like, it's been merry and bright. And if it hasn't been, I hope that you are making space and room for joy and creating it and finding it and looking it in the face and welcoming it in wherever it's turning up for you. I love you. Go make something fun today.